Okay, well it's a sunny day. Sorry about the shorts. Something that's come up a little bit is tripods, and I wanted to talk a little bit about tripods. Now, I don't use them a lot because I prefer to handhold, because often with wildlife you kind of got to move with the animal, you don't know where they're going to go. But this is one of the tripods I have, which is a small travel tripod from Manfrotto. It's the one that I tend to take with me when I travel because it does, as you can see, fold down pretty small. It comes in a small bag as well, which can be quite handy. Now, a couple of things to think about before you buy a tripod. So if you're going to need to carry it a long way, you want something that's fairly light. This is just over 1 kilo, and that has the advantage that it's not too heavy to carry. And also when I'm traveling, it doesn't eat into my baggage allowance too much because I'll put this in my stowed bag. Second thing, so this one opens up. It just has a kind of 3 selection point here. So there's a fold position and then the sort of normal tripod open position that you can lock the legs into. Let's do that right. And that gives me a nice stable little platform. Now, one thing to think about is how you open and lock the legs. So this has 3 quick release locks here. So there are 4 sections to the tripod. Now, I much prefer quick release because, as you can see, it's very easy to open them up. Do the other one. And in fact, when they're with these 3, when I push them down, I can actually just close them with one hand movement, so it's then locked. So I personally prefer these quick release catches. You can get the locking ones that you rotate. So just remember, on something like this, if I'm using all 4 sections, I've got to use these clips 9 times to set it up. Next thing to think about is the head you're using. Now, for photography, I use a ball head, so that means that I can kind of rotate the camera, and you'll find that there's a slot, which means you can turn the camera vertical, whether it's vertically up or vertically down. So what I'm going to do next is just grab a camera and stick it on. Okay, so this is one of the cameras I use a lot. It's a Canon EOS 7D. I've got a 100 to 400mm lens on here, so this is all pretty heavy, and I also have the battery extension on the bottom. Now, what you want to do is mount the camera on the tripod close to the center of gravity, or as close as you can get. Normally that means just mounting it on the bottom. Here though, because I've got this big lens, I'm using the ring mount on the lens, and I put the mounting bracket in here. So what I'm going to do is just clip that in, and now that's located, and I'm for now just going to lock that ball head. Now, a couple of things to think about. You'll notice here that I've got a leg. I'm going to pull those out. It's mounted in front of where the lens is. Now, this is something I see people do a lot. They don't mount it that way. They actually mount they mount everything this way, and you can see now how unstable that is. If I lock that, there isn't actually that much support. It's very easy for the center of gravity, particularly if you're on a slope, to tip over past where those 2 legs are. In fact, the lens is pretty much overhanging already. And this is where people have cameras and tripods fall over. So when you're using your tripod, always make sure your forward leg, so the one that's furthest away from you, is pretty much underneath the lens, because that makes that whole thing very stable. Okay, another thing I'm going to just mention to you is that you may have seen this little rubber clip. And what I will do is just what I'm going to do is take that off. So I'll show you this in close-up, but there's a little rubber kind of rectangle thing here that you may have found on your camera strap. What that does, if you're doing night photography, what you do is you take off the eye cup off the lens, and then you slide this over. So if you're using a DSLR, that's a bit tricky to do one-handed. So if you're using a DSLR, that will slide over, and then it stops any light creeping in through the eye cup or through the viewfinder, through the pentaprism. Now, you're not likely to get much leakage through there, but it just does stop that happening. So that's what that thing is. And that's probably it in terms of just a quick idea on how to use tripods. One thing to think about, because although a tripod will steady your camera, when you're actually shooting, if you want to avoid any kind of movement introduced by pressing the shutter button, you've got two choices. One is to use a remote release, either a cable release or a Wi-Fi release if your camera supports that. The other thing is to select the self-timer on the camera. If you're going to be standing next to the camera, just use the 3-second self-timer. And if you want to obviously run in front and get into the picture, then use the 10-second. But the 3-second timer that you'll see, the 3-second timer option, it's basically there to allow you to just take a shot, but without you physically touching the camera, because if you're on a tripod, it's presumably because you want to keep things nice and steady and rock steady, and that's the best way of doing it with a camera setup. So there you go, just some hints on using tripods. I hope that made sense. Again, I apologise for the shorts, but it is a beautiful day, and I'll see you at the next blog.